So, what if you could unlock the secrets of the human mind? I'm not talking about some kind of mystical power, but what if you could understand the simple, powerful psychological triggers that guide pretty much all of our thoughts and actions? Well, today, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to dive into the world of mentalism and suggestion and see how these secrets can be used for very different reasons. And let's start with this pretty wild claim from a guide by a guy named Spencer Michaels. The promise is incredibly bold, right? It's almost like a superpower. Learn the secrets of mind readers and use them to pick up beautiful women. Okay, this is our way in, looking at one very specific, and let's be honest, controversial application of these techniques. A promise like that. It suggests there's this immense power just waiting to be used. But what are these highly guarded secrets, really? Are we talking about genuine psychic abilities? Or is there something else going on here? That right there, that's the big question we're going to unpack. So to answer that, we've got to first understand the promise that's being made. We'll start by taking a closer look at our first source, a guide that claims you can basically weaponize psychology for the dating world. Okay. So the author, Spencer Michaels, he presents his methods as this tested, unorthodox approach. He even backs it up by citing a degree in psychology. But you really got to pay attention to the goal here. It's about getting past a woman's defense mechanisms. That specific choice of words, that's really important. Now, let's look at these exact same secrets, but from a completely different and way more public perspective, through the eyes of a master performer. And this is Darren Brown. If you don't know him, he's a world-famous mentalist and illusionist. He uses the very same psychological principles, but his goal isn't seduction at all. It's entertainment, and a really fascinating public exploration of how the human mind works. Darren Brown is known for these incredible TV shows like Mind Control, where he does these amazing mental feats. But here's the massive difference. He is crystal clear that none of it is supernatural. He says right up front, his work is just a mix of magic, suggestion, psychology, and pure showmanship. He's just exploiting the natural quirks of our own brains for a cool effect. All right, let's really get into this. We're going to deconstruct 3 key techniques that show up all the time in the world of mentalism, and we're going to see how they actually work, pulling directly from Darren Brown's own explanations. Okay, let's kick it off with a classic. Can you move a pendulum with just your thoughts? You know, it's that foundational test of psychic ability. But the secret behind it, it's purely, and fascinatingly, psychological. It's called the ideomotor effect. It's this wild phenomenon where your body makes these tiny, unconscious movements just in response to an idea. You're not consciously trying to move, but your body just reacts to the thought anyway. This, my friends, is the real science behind stuff like Ouija boards and pendulum dowsing. And hey, you can actually experience this yourself. Darren Brown explains that the whole trick is to simply imagine the movement. You don't try to move your hand, not consciously, but the power of that suggestion alone is enough to send these tiny signals to your muscles. And those involuntary movements create this powerful and honestly kind of eerie illusion that your mind is moving the object. So that same power of suggestion and unconscious action, it applies to way more than just movement. Another huge part of mentalism is making it look like you have a flawless, almost superhuman memory. So how's that done? All right, time for a little challenge. Take a look at this list of 12 words. Try to memorize them in order. Okay, I'll give you a second. It's hard, right? Trying to remember a random list like this just by repeating it over and over is incredibly difficult for most of us. But of course, there's a trick for this too. It's called the linking system. Instead of just repeating the words, you create this chain of bizarre mental pictures that connect each item to the next one. And the weirder the image, the better it sticks. And this isn't just a party trick, it's a super powerful tool for studying or remembering any kind of important information. For example, to link stomach and cardboard from our list, Brown suggests this very specific, very odd image. I guarantee you are not going to forget that picture anytime soon. By creating a strange little story of linked images, mentalists can recall enormous amounts of information like it's nothing. And finally, let's look at a really popular idea from something called neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. This is the eye accessing cues chart. The theory here is that by watching where somebody's eyes move, you can tell exactly how they're thinking, whether they're remembering a sound, making up an image, or even if they're lying. It's a really seductive idea, isn't it? It's taught in sales courses, seduction courses, you name it, as a way to read people. But what does the evidence actually say? Well, according to Darren Brown, who has studied these techniques for years, scientific tests have shown again and again that this hypothesis just doesn't hold up. There is no universal, reliable system for reading minds just by watching where somebody's eyes go. So, we've seen how these secrets work. They're not magic, they are powerful psychological tools. And this brings us to the most crucial point of all, the intent. The exact same technique can be used for very, very different purposes. Let's compare the motives side by side. Let's just take mirroring, subtly copying someone's body language. In one context, the goal is to make someone more susceptible to suggestion, to lower their guard. In the other, it's about helping an audience volunteer feel more comfortable up on stage, which makes the show better for everyone. See? Same tool, totally different philosophy. One is about trying to bypass consent. The other is about enhancing a shared experience. And Brown himself really highlights this ethical line. In performance magic, he says, there's this unspoken contract. The audience knows they are there to be fooled, and they're okay with it. The performer is basically saying, hey, I'm going to trick you, but we both know it's a game. This kind of honest contract is completely missing when these same techniques are used secretly to manipulate somebody in their real life. So let's pull all of this together. What does this actually mean for you, in your everyday life? Okay, here's what it all boils down to. What's so often sold as mind control is really just applied psychology. It's cleverly leveraging suggestion and our own mental shortcuts. And because these are just tools, what separates ethical influence from straight-up manipulation is simply the intent behind them. And at the end of the day, just being aware of how all this works is your best defense. And look, these ideas aren't just for magicians or pickup artists. The principles of suggestion and influence are absolutely everywhere, from the ads you see to the way your social media feed is designed to your daily negotiations with your boss, your colleagues, and your friends. So now you know some of the secrets behind the curtain, this subtle psychology of suggestion that's constantly shaping our world. The only question left is, as you go about your day, what are you going to see differently?